Is rising, y'all. This video is about crying. When's the last time you cried? Do you allow yourself to cry or do you stuff it? I was a stuffer, and now it depends. Sometimes I cry in front of people. It's easier to cry in front of strangers for me anyway. I think I've gotten a little more comfortable with crying in front of my family, although still not all the time. Mostly I cry by myself in my car with the music loud, or what I used to do back in the day, probably in my 20s, I used to watch Beaches. That was my favorite cry movie. I would just put it on and cry. Partly because of the movie and partly because, I don't know, maybe I numbed myself from the childhood traumas and I didn't allow myself to cry because I feel like I was put in like the masculine energy of things and being the responsible one, and I don't know, maybe also just in our family we were so, like boys are not supposed to cry, boys don't cry, men don't cry, or whatever the thing is. So I don't know, maybe I just took that on and I was like, it's not okay to cry. Or when I did cry as a little kid, it was like nobody was there to comfort me or whatever. So, I don't know. Crying. When's the last time you cried? I remember also when when the family came for an Easter gathering, probably one of our last years ago, I stepped on a bee. I was going through a lot at that time, and the bee sting hurt, right? It was a dead bee that I stepped on. And I cried, like ugly cry, boogers and everything. Sloppy cry, And it was partly also because I hadn't cried about my life. So, crying is good for the soul. Better out than in, like Shrek says. And, it's a form of release. So I encourage you, if you haven't cried lately, to cry. Put on a sad movie, get in your car, or maybe even scream. Sometimes I get in my car and I put a loud music on and I just scream with it. That headbanger stuff is probably good to do it too. I don't listen to that kind of music, but when I do, it's probably for that. Yeah, so cry, scream, release in a healthy way. That's all. I love you. Ciao for now.